this is Dez Futak on day number 35 of my 90-day internet marketing challenge. If you're wondering why I'm doing this, if this is the first video that you've watched on YouTube, go back to day one, which you can find a link somewhere up here, maybe on that side, and have a look at the first video which details why I'm doing this. Now, I'm just in the middle of this whole series of videos talking about developing a success mindset. Now, what I'm talking about to you is really related to business, but actually the principles here you can apply in any situation in life. And what I've done so far is I've addressed two things. I've looked at why, the difference between I can't and how can I as a sort of question to ask yourself. And then yesterday I looked about developing the right mindset to success and failure, how you can fail your way to the top or you can give up as soon as you fail for the first time. And interestingly, most successful business people will tell you a story of failure. And the person that I'm communicating most about to is Robert Kiyosaki, because he's written several good books which kind of put together lots of ideas in a very, very well written way. And he talks about an instance where he went to, I think it was, Colorado University or somewhere, and he gave a talk about his first business venture, which failed miserably. And at the end of it, there were loads of the students asking him lots of questions, trying to understand how he built his business, and what it was that enabled him to be successful and so on. And largely what Robert was talking about was actually his failures rather than his successes. And at the end of that, he thought he'd done a really good job. And then a couple of weeks later, he found out that the person who'd invited him was brought before the head of faculty for saying, we don't want you bringing guys in who are just failures. We only want people who are successful. The reality is most businesses experience failure in some kind of way. And Robert Kiyosaki says that actually being an entrepreneur, and this is really scary, we thought yesterday was scary, be very scared now, because being an entrepreneur is a bit like being pushed out of an aircraft or jumping out of an aircraft, and you haven't got a parachute, and on your way down you've actually got to build your parachute. And Robert's actually done this several times, and his parachute wasn't built well enough, and so he hit the ground hard, but he bounced back, and he said the hardest bounce, it took about a year to bounce back. So whereas a lot of people, the pain of failure is actually significant. And if you remember, I talked to you yesterday about how young children, when they learn to walk, there's a lot of pain involved because they're always bumping themselves and banging their heads and then just trying again. And the reason why they don't give up is because they see the success of others around them, and that just gives them that vision, that goal to aim for. So it's very important in your life that you have some kind of, some people call it a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, something really significant in your life that gives you that vision, that purpose, that sense of wanting to go through that painful process between where you are now and where you want to be. So it is important that you have the right mindset, obviously. Okay, one thing I want to talk to you today, that was just an introduction. The key thing I want to talk to you today is I want to really list about seven different reasons why people don't succeed, and obviously I'm going to tell you some possible solutions to those. And this is based on a book that I'm reading at the moment called Before You Quit Your Day Job Before You Quit Your Job by Robert Kiyosaki. So I've kind of cribbed from his experience as an entrepreneur, and I'm just passing it on, as all teachers do. So the number one reason why people don't succeed in business is, the first thing they've got wrong is they've got the wrong training. And what I mean by this is, as I said, between the ages of about 5 and 18, we're in an education system which Robert actually suggests is based on a Prussian system of developing an economy based around a workforce of employees. Whereas before there was the industrial age, we lived in an agrarian society where farmers basically rented land off the king, and they farmed the land and they paid the king a tax. So they were essentially, they were entrepreneurs. They were people who had to manage their own finances or else they starved. And what happened in the Industrial Revolution was there was a sudden need, a huge need, for people to do jobs. And so the whole concept of jobs, in a sense, was created. And we've lived in that sort of echo of that industrial age ever since, although now we're in the almost post-technological age. We're moving ever further away from that industrial age. So we have this whole system which is really designed to, get people into the mindset of having jobs. And I remember once, it was very interesting. When I was a teacher, I still am teaching every day, but I remember one particular time, I asked my students, I said, okay, is there anybody here who wants to be a business owner when they leave school? And only one person out of a class of 20 actually put their hand up. The rest just didn't want to do it. They didn't want to go there. They already had that mindset trained into them of getting a good job, working hard, going to university. Where it's interesting that Robert Kiyosaki says a lot of very famous people have actually, left school. I'm not advocating not having a university education by any means, because I've done a degree myself. But what I am saying is that you have to really realise that one of the keys to success in being an entrepreneur is having the right kind of mindset. And a lot of people, when they start their own business, they kind of start with this grand idea that they're going to they're going to be their own boss, they're going to be the ones in charge, and they're going to basically, fire their boss. That's one expression you hear a lot: fire your boss. Okay, in reality, when people kind of move away from being an employee to suddenly being an entrepreneur, is they're faced with huge numbers of challenges that they're not really prepared to cope with. And what they might end up doing is building themselves a big prison that actually is far harder than when they were just an employee. So what I'm going to do is really help you understand the important differences over the course of the next 7 days, the important differences between being an employee and being an entrepreneur. And one of the key differences is your approach to risk, and I've already been talking about this. Okay, risk, the Chinese, I think it's the Chinese, they've got two words for it. One is the word dangerous and the other word is opportunity. And those two words are very interesting. So, dangerous opportunity. In other words, there is an element that you could get hurt by this, but there is a massive opportunity. And Forbes magazine came up with some interesting research. They reported on some interesting research that was done on successful entrepreneurs. And it's not so much that entrepreneurs are fantastic salespeople, but they have two characteristics which are really, really important that differentiate them from employees. And the first one is their attitude to risk. A lot of very successful entrepreneurs, they have a completely different mindset to failure. Okay, it's not that they don't think about failure, but they just realise that in the course of life there are rocky places, there are difficulties, but they are totally committed and convinced to the idea of the success that they're going to achieve. So what they've done is, I said earlier, it comes back to this Tony Robbins idea that you condition yourself, you get the right beliefs, the right mindset, so that you can condition yourself to have a successful mindset. And when you do that, when you build that kind of daily ritual and you build momentum and you are convinced, there's a very strong sense of being convinced that this is what you're going to do, your approach to failure is totally, totally different. It's a bit like, oh, I haven't got enough money so I can't do this, or how can I get enough money so that I can do this? Okay, the can-do attitude is really based on that confidence, and that confidence can only come out of developing that right sort of daily ritual and rehearsing in your mind and just getting yourself immersed in an environment where it just becomes a sine qua non, as the Italians I think say. It becomes without question that you are going to succeed sooner or later. Okay, so one of the key differences, the key things to get right when you're running your own business is get out of the employee mindset before you quit your day job. Make sure that you develop a mindset where you know you're going to succeed. Okay, and you can only do that by getting the daily rituals, the momentum, the rehearsal going in your mind, so that you have that right attitude towards risk. Okay, what was the second thing? Forbes magazine said there were two things. The first one was a right attitude towards risk, okay? And the second thing they said, which is very, very important, is an ability to communicate, to articulate your skills, okay? And that's really one of the key hallmarks of a leader, okay? Leadership is very, very much about communicating your vision, communicating a purpose to the company, to the people that are working with you, to the partnerships that you're setting up, okay? And also it's developing a structure, a business structure that operates much more like, I call it like mushrooms growing all over the place. It's not a hierarchical structure, okay? It's much more of a kind of a network, and Robert Kiyosaki is very keen on network marketing for that reason. So he develops partnerships, key strategic partnerships with other people so that he can use their money and their skills to actually get where he wants. And I'll talk more about that in another time, okay? So I think I've waffled on for now, for goodness me, 9 minutes and 12 seconds, so I better stop. Okay, bye for now.